When a corporate giant worth billions hits a wall, it doesn't just tap the brakes, it's got to overhaul the entire engine. Today, we're diving deep into Dow, one of the titans of the chemical industry, and it's making a massive, really high-stakes bet to transform itself in what might be one of the toughest markets we've seen in a long time. So let's break down how Dow is trying to rebuild its engine while the race is still very much on.
Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we need to set the stage. What does this challenging market Dow's is playing in even look like? Then, we'll zoom in on Dow's financials. After that, and this is crucial, we'll see how they stack up against their biggest rivals. From there, we'll unpack the company's monster multi-billion-dollar turnaround plan, and finally, we'll get the verdict from Wall Street on whether this huge bet is actually going to pay off. So what are we even talking about here? Specialty chemicals. Look, these aren't your run-of-the-mill commodity products. Think of them more like the secret sauce, the high-performance ingredients that make your smartphone screen brighter, your car's paint last longer, or even make medicines work better. It's all about what they do, not just what they're made of. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, this is not a small niche market. We're talking about an industry that's worth nearly $1 trillion in 2024. That is the massive playground Dow is competing in, and it's exactly why every single percentage point of market share is a battle worth fighting for.
Okay, so to really get why Dow is making such bold moves, we first have to understand the world they're living in right now. And let me tell you, it is a world full of pressure and some pretty big contradictions.
And this really gets to the heart of the paradox. On the one hand, you've got this awesome long-term forecast, the market's supposed to hit over $1.3 trillion by 2030. But the reality today? Analysts are calling it a prolonged down cycle. Growth forecasts are being slashed, and you've got all this geopolitical chaos and sky-high energy costs just squeezing the life out of profits.
And check this out. This shows you exactly where the industry's center of gravity is. The Asia-Pacific region, it's half of the entire global market. That's not just a cool stat. It's a strategic reality that shapes everything: supply, demand, and especially competition.
So, with that tough market as our backdrop, let's finally turn to our main character, Dow. In this environment, how did this chemical giant actually do last year? Let's get into the numbers.
Now, on the surface, these numbers look pretty solid, right? $40 billion in sales is a huge number for anyone. They pulled in over $3 billion in operating earnings, and they even returned $1.5 billion to shareholders. But, and it's a big but, these headline numbers really don't tell the whole story.
Because when you start to peek under the hood a little, you see the cracks. Take their biggest division, packaging and specialty plastics. The key phrase here is margin compression. In simple terms, it just means the gap between what it costs them to make stuff and what they can sell it for is getting smaller and smaller. And that is absolutely hammering their profits.
All right, now it's time for a reality check. Because a company's performance is always relative, right? So how does Dow's $40 billion in sales and those shrinking margins actually stack up against its rivals? Well, this is where the story takes a really sharp turn.
So let's just ask the question directly. In this tough market, is Dow a leader? Are they a laggard? Are they just kind of stuck in the middle of the pack? The data gives us a very, very clear answer.
And here it is. Wow. Just look at this table for a second. While competitors like Linde are posting these incredible 20% net profit margins, that means for every dollar in sales, they pocket 20 cents of pure profit. Dow is way down at the bottom. And not just at the bottom, they're at negative 6.6%. Yeah, you heard that right. After all that revenue, the company actually posted a significant net loss in 2025. This one slide explains everything that's about to happen.
So that jarring underperformance you just saw, that is the why behind Dow's radical new strategy. When you're losing money while your competitors are thriving, just standing still is not an option.
So,
You
Dow
have
has
to
a
make
clear
a
problem
big,
and a
bold
very
move.
ambitious plan.
And
But
Dow
what
is
do the
framing
people
this
who
as something
actually
much
bet their
bigger
money
than just
on these
cutting
companies
costs.
think?
They're calling it a
the investors and the
fundamental
Wall Street
reinvention.
analysts. In their
What's
own
their
words,
verdict
the
on
plan
this
is to
high-stakes
reshape
future?
Dow from within.
Well, the verdict
That's
is
a pretty powerful mission statement for what they're calling their
This table
transform to
ranks the major
outperform
players
plan.
based on what
And the
analysts
goal
are
they've
saying.
set is
and
just
Dow
as
is right
bold.
there in last
They want to
place.
generate over $2
While its rivals are
billion
getting strong
in
buys
additional
or
core
moderate buys,
profitability.
Dow gets a
This
hold.
isn't just about
And
stopping
hold
the
is
bleeding
basically
and getting
Wall
back
Street's
to
code
even.
for wait and
It's
see.
about fundamentally
The main reason to
retooling
buy
the
Dow
company's
right
whole
now isn't
profit
about
engine
today's
for the long
performance.
haul.
It's a bet
So
that things
how are
will
they
look
going
a
to
lot
do it?
better in
Well, the
2027.
whole plan really rests
So,
on
to put it
four main
simply,
pillars.
Wall Street gets
First,
it.
simplify.
They
simplify.
see the challenges,
Make that
they see the
complex
weak
corporate
demand.
structure
They look
way
at
more
Dow as a
agile.
company that's
Second,
in the middle
streamline.
of a massive
Use
and
tech
frankly
like
necessary
automation and AI to
restructuring.
work smarter.
But they believe
Third,
its success
modernize.
depends not just
Change
on
up
its
how
own
they
plan
actually
working
work with
out,
their customers
but also
to
on
grow.
the entire market
And
getting
finally,
healthier
a
right
hard
around
reset on
2027.
costs across the board. It's a real top-to-bottom overhaul.
But let's be clear, this kind of transformation has a very real-world cost. The plan itself is going to cost over $1 billion to implement. It's going to involve cutting around 4,500 jobs, and it means shutting down older, more expensive plants, especially over in Europe. But at the same time, they aren't just cutting. They're also pouring money into a huge new sustainable production project called Path to Zero, which is a big bet on the future.
And this is not an overnight fix. This timeline shows that the benefits are going to ramp up pretty slowly, with the biggest single chunk of that gain, over $1 billion, not even expected to hit the bottom line until 2027. This is a long, carefully planned campaign.
Which leaves us with the ultimate multi-billion-dollar question. In a tough, competitive industry that is stuck in a down cycle, is this massive, painful, and very expensive overhaul actually going to be enough? Can Dow really transform itself from a laggard back into a leader and prove all the skeptics wrong?